Kia ora. Hello everybody. Small and medium businesses are the backbone of our economy. 97% of all firms are small and medium businesses, and there are some really big issues facing Kiwi business leaders and owners like you right now. Fortunately though, there are some great people out there who you can reach out to for support, from your industry peers and whānau to professional advisors. Now, speaking of whom, I'm pleased to be joined today by Kimberley Symon and Martin Veitch from BDO. Okay guys, I'm really excited to get into this conversation and uncover some tips for our business leaders out there. Now, as accountants and business advisors, you really do get to witness the highs and the lows that these leaders are going through. What's your sense of how they're feeling out there right now?
Business owners certainly do have a lot on their plate. So back in 2022, we started the BDO Business Wellbeing Index, which looks at both financial and mental wellbeing and the correlation between those two things. So we survey 500 business leaders from across Aotearoa, and we do this twice a year. And our most recent index in April of this year is showing that both of these metrics, financial and mental wellbeing, are both declining, with the biggest drop in terms of business performance sentiment that we've seen so far. The WHO 5 index, which measures mental wellbeing, is also relatively low. So this is in stark contrast. Back in October, we ran the same survey in the 2 weeks following the election, and it really is a case of reality bites. Back then, business sentiment and wellbeing was uplifted. I think people really thought that we would have this change in government, and that there would be a lot of change. But now, 6 months later, we're really seeing that actually the problems are bigger than that. The economy is in a worse state, and it's not an overnight fix.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there. Marty, what are the big issues driving this picture?
Yeah, well, firstly, looking at business performance, Paddy, there's 5 key areas which the surveys unfolded in terms of where businesses are feeling least positive about. First one being economic impacts, so the effect of cost increases, inflation, interest rate rises have a real serious impact on SMEs across the country. Flying into cash flow, not quite as much work out there, revenue dropping, costs, and with a bad combination around cost increases as well. Political factors, as Kim mentioned before, we're still yet to see some, I suppose, real reprieve. And I think there was a lot expected about the change in government, but it's going to be a long burn. Business financials, all these things flowing into just basically, if you haven't got your business structured correctly, you're going to be struggling. And lastly, interesting coming through from the survey is concern around workload. So as business contracts, owners of these SMEs out there are concerned that, hey, they're going to actually be having to do more and have less people to help them.
Okay, Marty, so on the well-being side, what are the negative factors that are really kicking in for our business leaders?
Yeah, well, I suppose not surprisingly, Patty, there's a bit of overlap with the financial business performance key issues there around financial matters, concern around financially what's happening with their business, economic pressure, which is naturally driving all of that, and also workload and political factors coming through as well. You know, that feeling of a lack of control around what's actually happening in the environment. And the last interesting point coming through was that there's a real concern around, tied in with the workload piece, around lack of support going forward. So that we read that as being both within a business, if you're having to scale back, having to do more yourself as an owner, but also, and when times are tough, it's making sure you've got the right external people to lean on and making sure you're engaging with your stakeholders.
Yeah, so finding support for yourself when you're doing extra work to keep the place going. Yep. But also, I take it, finding support from others with how to handle it. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's right. So when business is finding it tough or in distress, the best thing to do is communicate. So you're looking to reach out to your key stakeholders, being it other shareholders, possibly it's definitely financiers, but getting support from your key advisors as well.
Sure. And what are the key takeouts from this other than that? I mean, there's plenty there, but what are the key takeouts from this for you, Kim?
So I think business leaders are really resilient, by nature. They're in the roles they're in because they are resilient, and they can handle a lot. They can juggle a lot of balls and a lot of different pressures. But the extended nature since COVID of this downturn, the ups and the downs, it's been an absolute roller coaster for them. And I think they're getting to the point now where it's hard to cope. So I think what we're certainly seeing here is it's tough at the top. and particularly right now, it's certainly true.
Yeah, Marty, would you agree with that? Is that one of your takeaways as well, that it's tough at the top, but it sounds as if Kim's saying it's been tough at the top for too damn long?
Yeah, I mean, being an SME business owner can be a lonely place to be. And the macroeconomic pressures that are on us at the moment, they create that real feeling of that, as we touched on, that lack of control. So quite often going in times of distress, going into the unknown is worse than actually knowing what's ahead of you. And there seems to be quite a lot of that at the moment with these external factors that are affecting the small business market as we see it at the minute.
All right, so what resonates with you both the most out of these survey results? I'm sure it's something to do with your clients. Is there trends in the index that you're seeing directly reflected from your clients?
Certainly for me, cash flow would be the biggest. I've had a great number of conversations with my clients over the last 6 to 12 months as to how to get through those cash flow crunches. Biggest impacted are those that hold stock, so largely retail, wholesale. We've seen that sharp drop in consumer demand, which has generally meant they've got a lot of stock on their balance sheets that they simply can't move. And that really does impact then their ability to turn that stock into cash and pay for their outgoings. So if businesses did not go into this tough period without significant reserves, they could now be struggling to make ends meet.
Okay, and Marty, what about you? Is there some trends in the index that have been reflected by your clients as well?
Oh, for sure. These economic drivers affecting business and around lower revenues than we've seen before, coming off the dizzying highs of the last few years, increased costs, so it's a bad combination, margin squeeze. And of course, rising interest rates. So we're seeing clients now with interest rates starting with a 10. That's quite different to where we were 2 years ago, and that is a real impact. And the way to navigate through that is just being prepared and looking forward and being informed and making informed decisions about what you can actually do.
All right, let's talk sectors now and sector-specific trends. What trends are we seeing related to certain sectors?
So Māori business owners and agribusiness owners are generally feeling a lot more positive about their business performance at the moment. Looking at agribusiness, likely a result of the increased dairy prices over the past few months. On the negative side, we've got retail and tourism and hospitality, whose business performance sentiment has dropped significantly since the last result. And that really is a result of that cost of living crisis coming through. People just simply aren't wanting to go and buy restaurant meals or go out and buy new clothes.
Okay, and what about you, Marty? What sector insights have you found in the index?
Well, what was interesting on the Wellbeing side of things, Māori business and construction didn't perform as badly as tourism, retail, hospitality. But it's still not a great reading. On the construction side of things specifically, that is quite a long lead time into it, so you can see quite a long way out when you're going to have a downturn. So the sector started showing some concern in our survey 3 surveys ago, so we're going back 2 years. Trended down, and then post-election took a spike with some optimism there, and it has now settled back to where we were a year ago. So the sector knew it was coming. There's still a lot of concern out there, but it's not as bad as we're seeing in other areas.
Oh, thank you. And this seems like a good place to actually go out into the field, where we've been talking to business leaders about what they see as the big issues.
So the biggest issues, I believe, facing retail and ourselves here at Oderings is cash flow and the cost of living crisis. We did hope for some reprieve with the government, the change of government, and that will likely happen, but I don't think we realised just how deep we were in a recession. In the next 6 months, I believe the cost of living and the cash flow crisis will continue.
The big issues facing our construction sector at the moment is lack of work and lack of workflow. We have work coming through, but it's the workflow and just not having the guarantee of when it's going to be starting. Other issues we see in the construction sector, not only just for our plumbing sector, but as in general, is some of the red tape. For plumbing and gas and drainage, we have to rely on councils for sign-off. We're trying to lobby to get self-verification through from the master plumbers. We're also seeing some big issues with the change in Te Pukeanga, with the apprentices not getting through on time. So that in turn puts stress on not having tradesmen at the end of it and not having skilled tradesmen coming into the country.
One of the big issues at the moment is profitability. Our costs have gone through the roof, and so I'm spending a lot of my time keeping an eye on reports, making sure our cash flows are up to date, and making sure that we are going to finish where I thought we were going to finish at the end of the financial year. So yeah, profitability is a huge one at the moment.
Heck of a lot of bad news in this BDO index. Tell me there's some good signs on the horizon. Tell me that the index has picked up some good stuff. Kim, please.
So look, Kiwis are generally really optimistic, and each time we run this survey, no matter what the news is, the forward outlook in 6 months is always rosier, and this is no exception. What's really interesting in these results is that things that business leaders tend to be focusing on in the short term, so cash flow, workload, those kinds of things, they're all saying they are going to be a lot better in the future. There's a lot more business leaders saying, my cash flow is going to improve, my workflow is going to improve. Whereas if we look at economic pressures, there's not a lot of difference there. I think business leaders are seeing the long-term issues that we'll be sitting here in 6 months' time having the same conversation. Interest rates will stay in a similar spot, inflation will stay where it is. People are still going to be under pressure.
Right, so some rosiness, but some darkness as well. Marty, some rosiness that you've found in the index?
Yeah, well business leaders, the aspects they're most positive about, there's four, Paddy. So there's performance assistance and technology, progress in meeting tax compliance and commitments, environmental and social impact on surrounding communities, so ESG planning, and cyber risk management profile. So it's really interesting seeing these coming through. Obviously, a lot of the discussion has been more on those at the other end of the spectrum, some of the real key, more negative impacts affecting business. Now, these are all four really important areas that business owners shouldn't take their eye off, but the way we saw this, but businesses seem to have other bigger issues facing them at present.
So what I'm picking up from both of you there is, yes, there's this natural Kiwi optimism, but hang on, these structural problems might still be around. So you saying to business owners, hey, don't take your foot off the pedal just yet. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right.
Certainly.
Yeah. I liken it to a game of rugby. We saw it at the half time and we're going to the wind in the second half. You've got to keep it really tight, and there's still a wee way to go. It's not panicking, but it's still just hunker down and play it safe.
I think being quite strategic about your decisions. It's quite easy. I mean, business owners at the moment really do need to focus on the now. What are the things they can control? What switches can they hit, and what mechanisms can they use to get through? But they do need to have that eye on the future, and are the decisions that they're making now going to affect their businesses in the long term, and are they going to actually take them in the right direction?
Sure. And another thing that I've picked up in the index is cybercrime. Business leaders actually don't seem to be that concerned about it, which, given the amount of talk that's out there in the public sphere at the moment, it seems everywhere you go, someone's had a scammer or worried about a scammer, or you're reading in the media about a scammer. Do you think that our leaders should potentially be more concerned about cybercrime than what we're seeing in the index?
Yeah, I think cybercrime first and foremost is a governance issue. It's a real risk, and boards that work in businesses need to be aware of the impacts that it could have, and it extends beyond the financial, which clearly it's a big financial risk, but it could also be operational. If there was a large cybercrime issue in your business, how would you be impacted? Understand what the risk is and understand kind of what those metrics are. And from there, make a plan whether to mitigate it through training your staff as to how to avoid these things, or to then minimise the impact. So making sure they're properly insured. And I think we've certainly seen in our own business, looking at those insurance levels and making sure that you're covered for the amount that you need.
Yeah, okay, so looking at the insurance is a big one that companies can do. Is there anything else, Marty, that companies can do to prepare for cybercrime?
Yeah, I think practically engage with the right specialist. They're out there. They can come and review your cybersecurity and let you know where you need to improve. So, yeah, seek the right advice.
Seeking the right advice is always important, and that's exactly, in some ways, what the index is all about. Okay, another one of these really massive issues that's out there is AI. Everybody knows what that stands for, artificial intelligence. The index shows that businesses are really grappling with how to deal with this. What's your take on this? What should businesses be doing?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that following the financial matters, following economic matters, those big issues that are impacting businesses right now, what they're grappling with is AI. And what I do think is that there is people are resistant to change, and AI is coming at us fast, and it's going to be a massive change for a number of businesses. But if people don't start the conversation, start learning about what AI can mean for their businesses and use it to enhance their businesses or even move in a different direction, they're missing a trick. So essentially, reach out to your advisors and start the conversation.
Yeah, start talking about AI. Marty, what advice do you have around AI?
Yeah, I think on the positive side, Patty, if your business has got capacity over the next wee while, things are a bit quieter, where and when you can, try and look internally at your systems and processes and technology, which includes AI, and see how you can improve your business from there, because you'll certainly thank yourself when you get busy again, when that time will come, that you've made this time and energy commitment now to do so.
Now, you two work closely with businesses every day. I want to ask you for your top tips to help businesses address the big issues that have been shown up by this BDO index. What are your top tips? Let's talk cash first. What are your top tips with cash flow?
Yeah, I think it starts, Peter, with being well informed, eliminate those unknown surprises. So the key thing is know where your business is going, have a very clear plan, chase profit, not turnover. That's key. And when it comes to managing cash, a couple of really important things. So when you're doing that budgeting, just think about the what ifs, what can creep in here could potentially sideswipe us. So just be aware of those. Keep a close eye on your debtors. Who owes you money? What are they doing? Get on the phone and chase them. Build a strong relationship with your bank, as we touched on before. They're always a key stakeholder in your business, and always found that over communication is better than no communication. Be aware of all your upcoming payments and commitments. Would be surprised that people don't have a very clear plan in terms of what their weekly, monthly, bi-monthly cash flows actually look like. And lastly, just reach out if you need any help with any of this stuff. It can be a lonely place, as we touched on before, and being forearmed is forewarned.
All right, that's really good. Thank you, Marty. Now, there's also a lot of white noise out there about political factors, about the economy. What are your top tips for dealing with those factors?
I think it's really important for businesses to think strategically. So they're making decisions for the right now. They're focusing on cash flow. They're focusing on short-term profitability, because those are the really big issues to get through the day-to-day right now. But we do need to make sure we've got a full strategic plan in place as a business to look at the future. What are we trying to achieve as a business? What's our vision? Why are we even here? And make sure that the things we're doing to get there are all stacking up in that right direction. So yes, focus on the right now, but make sure you're also focusing on the long term.
Okay, and talking of right now, workload. What are your top tips for someone who needs to deal with their workload immediately?
I think business owners are juggling. A number of them will have families, they've got staff, they've got clients, and it's an absolute juggle trying to tick all those boxes. So key recommendation is just to be flexible. Make sure you know what your non-negotiables are. What will you not miss? What is that soccer game that you cannot miss? What is the client meeting that you absolutely have to be at? And what are those key kind of staff engagements you have to attend? What are those things you can't give up? Do those, plan everything else around them.
All right, Marty. Well, let's talk big picture, and technology is a big picture issue. What are your top tips for business leaders who want to deal with technology in some way?
Yeah, I think if there is any time over the foreseeable future where your business does have capacity, embrace that capacity where and when you can to effectively internally look at your business with regard to its processes, its systems, and the way it's using technology. So technology now has the ability to, for small and medium-sized enterprise, to link together all manner of really effective apps and systems. And within there too is the AI question, which we touched on, which, hey, when you get the opportunity, have a play with it, see what it can do, try and make your business more efficient by embracing these types of things. And lastly, don't be complacent around the good sort of hygiene when it comes to things like cybersecurity and making sure your business is safe.
All right, well, thank you very much for that, guys, and we'll come back to you shortly. But first, let's go out into the field where we've been talking to business leaders about how they are tackling the big issues.
We're looking pretty hard at where we can save money and where we're not spending, and try and improve our bottom line that way. But I suppose having a diverse farming business, the deer side of things is going okay at the moment. So yeah, look, some are up, some are down, but yeah, generally it is pretty tough at the moment.
It's important for construction leaders to keep up with the latest information, either via your accountants, industry bodies, master plumbers, master builders, electrical, just to keep up with what's going on in today's business.
What we do to keep on top of financials at Oderings is it's always about information. We've been working with BDO very closely. We have put in a new financial system. We need to be able to pivot fast. We need those decisions. We need proper information coming out of the systems.
Okay, brilliant tips there, and I'm sure they'll be very helpful to our business leaders. But my question now is, do these business leaders need to address these big issues, and they are big, alone?
Look, I think it is really tough at the top. Business leaders, they have a number of decisions that are on their shoulders. The buck stops with them. So they do tend to feel this, and a lot do tend to feel like they're alone. So what the survey data is showing is that a number of businesses are in the same place. Business leaders are feeling it at the moment in that same place, and that place isn't the nicest place. So make sure you're reaching out to colleagues. Don't be afraid to pick up that phone, make a call and talk to people and gather that support.
And Marty, coming to you on this topic, are business leaders starting these conversations soon enough? Are they starting them early enough?
Yeah, look, Patty, the good ones are. They're businesses which are already surrounded by a good support network. They might have the right governance structures in place, as Kim has touched on. They've got some good support from the key stakeholders. That might be the bank, other investors, shareholders, that type of thing. So everyone's on board and everyone is aware of what's going on. But hey, it's never too late to start. So if you're out there and you're a business owner and you're struggling and you don't know where to go, reach out for help.
This has been a brilliant discussion. And to wrap it up, where can our business leaders go if they want help and support? Who can they turn to?
Well, first of all, our website. So there you'll find more information about the BDO Business Wellbeing Index, along with specific videos regarding each individual sector and more practical tips and advice for your business.
And what about you, Marty? Any final tips? You can wrap this up.
Yeah, look, first and foremost, feel free to reach out to any of our BDO teams around the country for support and advice and guidance. If you're a Xero customer, the Xero Assistance Program is also available, which basically gives you access to free and confidential mental health and counselling.
All right, and both of you were really good places to go to for advice on dealing with these big issues out there, and I'm sure the business leaders that have been watching will appreciate it, and we appreciate both of you. Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.